Hi everybody, Manny Telebear here. We're now on day 105 of the seven-figure climb, and I thought I would do something a little different and just give you all a little inside baseball and talk about the day I almost died and kind of give you kind of the play-by-play there. And I've never really done a video on this, and I've thought about doing it a few times. Um, no reason in particular I'm doing it now except that I had been really sick and I've been struggling with a lot of stuff. And I thought, well, you know what? I'll go ahead and do this. And what's interesting, this video will probably get more views than anything I'll release in the next 6 months until I get critical mass. I'm not really doing it for views or anything, but I'm kind of doing it just to thank everyone for watching the videos that I am doing. And like I said, but this one's going to be more clickbaity because of the title, and so people will show up. And so there's not going to be any marketing or strategy here. I'm just going to kind of give you a play-by-play of what happened. Um, and so I think it's February 16th, 2021. Um, I was I was doing what I do all the time, which was I was doing something related to marketing, probably going through content, and I go through quite a bit of material, and I generally do a lot of I do go through content a lot at night, from like from anywhere from 10 to 3 or 4 in the morning. I feel like that I have the most cognitive ability. I just feel like I get the most done at that time, and so um, I was going through material, studying some stuff, taking some notes, and I wasn't feeling well. And I didn't really know what the problem was, and I hadn't eaten much at all that day. And I generally, like I said, when I'm not feeling well, I don't want to cook. And I think I ended up ordering a pizza or something, and I ordered the pizza, and I was already feeling really rough. And by the time the pizza got there, I was feeling much, much, much worse. But I couldn't figure out what the problem was, because they say, you have a heart attack, you have pain in your shoulder or your chest or your left side or something like that. I didn't have any of that. And so what I was having is I felt I was having an allergic reaction um, to something. And people have allergic reactions like anaphylactic shock when they eat something that disagrees with them. The problem is I hadn't eaten anything, and if I had eaten something, I would have really written it off and just assumed that something I had eaten disagreed with me, because I had this sensation coming from my stomach up my chest into my jaw and all of that. But like I said, I really felt like that's what it was, and I was having a little trouble breathing. But I wasn't having like chest pain, I was having back pain. And what's interesting is someone related to us, or someone who's friends of the family, he had a heart attack about a year and a half ago, and it killed him. And it was all back pain, and he went to the hospital reeling in back pain, and unfortunately they were not able to save him. And I think he probably waited too long to go. And I think that's probably the reason he didn't make it. I think that he probably started having issues way earlier in the day, but he was at work, and he continued to work. And by the time he got off of work, he immediately went to the ER, but they weren't able to do anything with him. And I think another thing is, he went to the ER. My understanding is he went to the ER on his own. And if he would have called an ambulance, they wouldn't have taken him to the ER in Newcastle, because they would have immediately figured out he's having a heart attack, and they would have taken him to Muncie. And so he probably lost a lot of time there as well. And so I was having, like I said, I was having this sensation, and I can tell you, I did not have any clue that it would be a heart attack or anything. And it certainly didn't, to me, it didn't resonate like that. But like I said, I was having pain in the back, and I was having this issue go up. And I thought, I really had determined it was some kind of an allergic reaction. And I thought I was going to need a shot of adrenaline or epinephrine or something. And so I ordered the pizza, and I ate one piece of it, and then I got sick. I hadn't eaten anything, and I got sick. Now that also was a huge red flag to me because that was way, way, way out of the norm. And so I went ahead and called an ambulance, and I thought that they would come over, and I just kind of assumed they would come over and they would look at me and they would give me a shot. But I'm like, I'm not really a fan of hospitals, and I don't really want to go anywhere unequipped. And so what I did is, I mean, I just started packing a bag, and I was taking everything I would want to have with me if I was going to be stuck somewhere for 3 or 4 days, like, my phone, I think I took my iPad, I took a bunch of information because I didn't want to be bored. Didn't want to be stuck somewhere and not be able to consume content. Um, so I started just stuffing all that. I called an ambulance and then started stuffing all of that stuff into a bag and like a few changes of clothes and things like that. And again, I didn't think that it was an issue, but I can tell you that what had happened, I got sick, and then that sensation started going down. It started going away, and then it came back, and then I got sick again. And about, I don't know, it didn't take the ambulance that long to get there, about 5 minutes or so. But like I said, my mindset was still that they was going to come in and they were going to kind of check my vitals, and then maybe they were going to give me a shot of epinephrine or Benadryl or suggest something. And I wasn't 100% cognizant that I'd end up leaving, but I did prepare the bag because, like I said, I don't like to go anywhere where I'm going to be stuck somewhere and be bored. And so I just packed a bunch of stuff to keep me occupied if I had to be in an emergency room for a few hours or whatever. And so, um, and so I did get really, really thirsty, and I didn't know, unbeknownst to me, my blood pressure had shot through the roof and my blood sugar had shot through the roof, which is what happens when one of the things that happens when you have a heart attack is all of your numbers just go crazy. And that's how I mean, that's one of the key indicators of a stroke, heart attack, or whatever. And but I can tell you, they did show up and they asked me a few questions and asked me if I wanted to go to the hospital. And I said yes. And they literally, I can tell you, I was walking. I mean, like I said, I was up walking around. I grabbed my bag, I grabbed my coat, I locked my door, I took, like I said, everything that I would need except something to drink. And I was really thirsty because my blood sugar had shot through the roof, and I didn't know it at the time. So I had something to drink, and it was sitting there, and I was going to grab it, but I grabbed something else, and then I didn't get it, and I was really upset about that. And so I got in the ambulance. I can tell you, probably 30 seconds. I mean, they started hooking me up to chest monitors, and within like 30 seconds, they told me I had a heart attack. I mean, it was really, really, really fast. And I think they were hooking me up to the heart monitor and all of that while they were also checking the blood pressure and the blood sugar. And like I said, those numbers were like off. They were just really, really high. I think the blood sugar was like 450 or something ridiculous, and the blood pressure was in the high 200s. Um, and fortunately, I called an ambulance. I just didn't get in a car and go to the hospital. And so because I called an ambulance, they took me straight to Muncie. They didn't take me to Newcastle because Newcastle doesn't have a heart catheterization system. They don't have it. They don't have that. They don't have that technology in place. And so, um, of course, what happens when you get in there and they determine you're having a heart attack, they call the hospital, and they're doing the, and the, I think they gave me 3 tablets of nitro. They gave me one, and then they gave me another one, and they gave me another one, and none of my numbers were coming down at all. And I was fairly uncomfortable when I was going over. And I was, of course, when I find out I had a heart attack, I was very happy I called them. But and I mean, I knew I had made the right decision, but I was very uncomfortable in the ambulance. And the ride, I can tell you, 30-minute ride to Muncie, maybe 25. They probably got us there in 15 minutes. I mean, they were moving pretty fast. And by the time I got to the hospital, it was around midnight. And so, and they were very, I mean, they were really, really nice to me in the ambulance. I mean, they're basically saying, this is what's going to happen. We're going to roll you in. There's going to be a whole bunch of people talking to you, asking you questions, and doing a bunch of stuff at the same time, which was right. I mean, that's essentially what it was. And of course, they didn't actually have a heart surgeon or a heart surgeon on staff at the time. They had one on call who had already been called, and so he showed up within, I mean, really fast. Probably took us 15 minutes to get to the ER, and maybe another 10 minutes after that. 15 minutes to the ER. 10 minutes later, he shows up, says I've had a heart attack, and they're going to need to do a heart cath, which is they're going to go through. They either go through your leg or they go through your arm, and they basically send a wire up your arm into your heart, and they put stents in, and that's kind of the way they do it. It's I don't even think they don't call it surgery. They call it a procedure. I'm pretty sure that's what they call it now. It's heart catheterization surgery or whatever it is, but they call it, I think like I said, they call it a procedure. And they wheeled me in there pretty fast. So I was in there, I mean, probably within 5 minutes of the doctor showing up, they had wheeled me in over there. And they did that heart cath, and I tell you, very, very, very fast. And what's interesting, you can't go to sleep. They can't put you to sleep for it. It's not a painful procedure at all. um, and when I end up having another one, we'll talk about that in a minute. But I was in some pain. My chest was hurting, but I didn't have any kind of anxiety or anything like that. And it's interesting because, and I'm sure people think this is kind of crazy. I thought it was anyway. The doctor comes in and says, you've had a heart attack, and we're going to have to take you in and do a heart cath, and that can cause a heart attack. So I've had a heart attack, and doing this will actually cause a heart attack. And I said, well, I'm already having one. He said, well, you can have another one. And I said, well, I mean, I guess I don't know what the deal is there. I guess they by law maybe have to tell you that. Maybe that's the mini Miranda or something. But I thought that was interesting to me. But I can tell you, they rolled me in there, and I would say I might be off on the time, but it didn't seem like I was in the heart cath lab more than 20 minutes or so, and they were done. And I can also tell you, they put two stents in, and they spent some time looking around. I don't know how many heart valves or how many veins they looked at, but they did spend some time looking at all of the veins, and they put two stents in, and when they put that second stent in, like there was some immediate relief. Like that second stent, and I don't know what the deal was with that, but I went from a lot of pain to no pain at all when they did that second stent. They might have given me some morphine too or something. I don't know, but they rolled me out, and of course this was during COVID, which was kind of problematic because people can't just freely come and go. So it's very more difficult to get people in to see you or anything like that. But it was basically an eventful an uneventful event is how I would phrase it. And like I said, I can tell you, I would never have guessed it was a heart attack. As a matter of fact, if I hadn't got sick twice, I probably laid down. That might not have been a very good outcome, because what I traditionally do when I don't feel well, that's my go-to. So I'm going to take some Aleve or something and lay down. And but the back, like I said, the back was a problem. And what's interesting is my main reason in calling is I had this idea that I was having an allergic reaction, and they would give me a shot of epinephrine or give me some Benadryl or something, and that sensation would go away. But when I got there, they didn't do any of that. Like I said, they just basically said, "Do you want to go to the hospital?" And since they weren't giving me that, I said, "Sure, why not?" I had my bag packed, And so that's kind of what happened. And I think I ended up in there, I think 2 days. I was in 2 days. And and like I said, it took them it took a long time to get the sugar down, and I don't know what happened, but my sugar stayed in the 180s for um I think I might have been able to leave after one day. I think I was there 3, and I might have been able to leave after 2 days, but getting the sugar down was a problem, and getting the blood pressure down was a problem also, but it wasn't as bad. So the blood pressure was coming down, and it was in a livable range. It wasn't ridiculous high. It was like in the 140s or 150s, but the sugar stayed up around 170 or 180, and um, I didn't have an appetite, and so I wasn't eating. What's interesting, I think I lost 17 pounds right after the heart attack, and mostly I just didn't feel like eating. And of course, hospital food's not the best food, but they did have other options there, and the food there is actually pretty good for a hospital, but like I said, I just didn't really have that much of an appetite. But fortunately I was prepared to go. I had everything sitting there, and so it is fortunate I went. Now, what's interesting, and I think this is kind of odd too, he came and my heart doctor, cardiologist came in. He said, this is what we did. This is what everything looked like, and he did tell me there was another blockage, and I don't understand why they didn't just stent that other blockage while they were in there. But he said it wasn't as bad, and he said, if we had to, we can go in and get it later, which I thought sounded like a very, very expensive fix to me. And unfortunately, a year later, they had to go back in. And this is actually probably more interesting than the first part of this, because, well, first of all, just to give you some inside baseball, 170,000, that's one of the bills I saw. I think that was the fee, 170 grand on the first one, and then the second one was like 270, and I didn't even have a heart attack. So I had the heart attack in February 2021. January of 2022. So after the heart attack, you're going and seeing the cardiologist every 90 days. And um, I was doing relatively well. Like I said, I'd lost some weight, and I've always walked on the treadmill and stuff like that. And what would happen, I would get this sensation of just it wasn't, I don't even know how to explain it. Wasn't the same sensation as the allergic reaction, but I would get this sensation of pressure just going from the chest into the neck, but was different. And it would just come and go at any, now get this. It wasn't when I was doing exercise. It was any given time. I could be I could be on a call, I could be making a video, I could be watching content, and I would have this sensation that would show up for like 2 or 3, like maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then it would go away. But what was interesting is it was slowing me down from walking, because what would happen is I would get ready to walk and I would have that. Before I even started walking on the treadmill, I started having that issue. And so what I did is what's interesting is I was going and seeing this guy every 90 days, seeing the cardiologist. And so I went in, and um, my appointments were always, I mean, they were very, very, very quick. They would literally be 2 or 3 minutes. I would go in, and the first couple, they did the EKG the first couple of times I went in. And they would do the blood pressure, they would check the blood pressure, and they would check your oxygen levels and all that. And a NP or a nurse would do all of that. So I would go, they would do that pre-doctor routine. They would ask if I'm having any issues, and then the doctor would come in, and I would talk to the doctor literally like 2 minutes. And that's what these look like. And I was doing them every 90 days. And then when I went back in that January, we went through that whole routine, but they had quit doing the EKGs on me. They didn't really see any reason to do those anymore. And then um, we were doing all we were, we basically went through all of this, and then I had my conversation with him, which is literally, like I said, 90 seconds or 2 minutes. And I was literally putting my coat on. And I just kind of said, by the way, there's just one little thing, and it's probably nothing. But I said, I'm getting this, and it shows up every 5 to 7 days, like a minute to, 30 seconds to a minute or 2 minutes. It goes away. It's not painful. It's not stressful. My blood sugar ain't going up. My blood pressure, my blood sugar and blood pressure aren't going up, but I'm just having this little sensation. And his head dropped. And I knew right then I was cooked and I was going to have to go back in. And literally 3 days later, I went in and they put in 4 more stents. And like I said, that second bill was more than the first one. And it's always like, I'm always curious about all that, because in the first one, I think I was in for 3 days. And then in the second one, I literally got there at 6 in the morning and left at noon, and it was like 100,000 more. This the little stents, and they've got to be microscopic, must be really, really expensive if, 4 stents, and the bill was 270,000. And so, like I said, I appreciate you all watching. And this one went really, really long. I'm trying to get better at the short form content. As a matter of fact, I was doing this video because I haven't been feeling well at all. And I thought I would be able to get this one out in 5 or 7 minutes, but it went long. But I appreciate you all watching, and I will see you all on the other side. And thanks a lot.